Hey guys, so quick video update before we end the night tonight. I posted earlier on my Twitter a couple of bearish counts, short-term counts, to explain kind of what we're seeing here right now. So I'm going to talk about both of those bearish counts, or sorry, one bearish and one bullish count right now, so we can clear up any misunderstandings that there are about where we are in the count at the moment. So the first count, this is going to be the bearish scenario. In the bearish scenario, we have this 1, 2, 3 ABC, 1, 2, 3 ABC, and then we have what looks like a five-wave impulse. So this bearish scenario is going to be the second second wave flat that I've been talking about for a while. So this is assuming that we're in a wave two. If you want to see where that wave two is, I've posted the larger picture right above these in my current setup section. But in the shorter term, this is going to be a flat correction that consists of a three-wave A, a three-wave B, and then a five-wave C to finish the correction, and then we'll resume the move downwards to continue lower. So what I want to show you guys here is that with this current setup here, the ABC, and now the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Initially, we thought, okay, maybe this is going to be a 1, a 2, a 3, a little 4, and then a little 5 to complete it up. But now that we've had this deeper retracement here, we can see that the 4 kind of retraced right down to where this 1 ended. We see the bodies of the 1 ended right about here, and above that is just wick. So what we're looking for is for the 4 not to cross into the territory of the 1s, or to close into the territory of the 1, which would be somewhere right around here. We ended up going down as low as about 64, 64.30, 64.40, and I'm not using a live chart because I just want to make this quick, so I've already mapped it out. But we ended up going down right here, and then we wicked back up. We did not close in wave 1 territory. We just closed, or we just had a wick into wave 1 territory. So this is still a valid count. With the 5-wave impulse like we have here, we know that wave 4 can't enter into wave 1 territory by more than a wick. So that's the important thing we're looking for. And we did wick down and bounce up before we could close in wave 1 territory. So this is still a valid count, and it looks very likely at the moment. What we're waiting for now is one more impulsive move up to complete the 5th wave of the C wave, and then we should continue down. So the good thing is, I've told you guys before, having the longer first waves makes our count super easy, because now that we know that the first wave is this long and the third wave is a lot shorter, that means that this 5th wave has to be shorter in vertical length than this third wave. So I took the measurement of the third wave starting from the bottom of the third wave to the top of the third wave, and then I projected it from the bottom of this 4th wave, and then we got our target for the 5th wave, which was about 68.79. Now keep in mind, at that point in time, the 4th wave had only gone down to about 64.80. It did drop down another, I think, $40 or $50. So we can lower this target right here, 68.79, by another $40 to $50. I'll get you guys that exact count after I'm finished making the video. But basically what we're looking for now is an invalidation above 68, around 30 or 68.40. So now we know exactly where this count gets invalidated, which is super helpful. We would expect we have to expect this 5th wave not to cross that level, and it's also possible that the 5th wave truncates, meaning it doesn't get past the 66, I believe 60 level that we're at before. So at this point, what I'll likely be doing is adding more shorts here because our invalidation point is right above us. So that's the bearish scenario. Now the bullish scenario that we're looking at looks something like this. So this bullish scenario would be a leading diagonal. And the reason I have it as a leading diagonal is because we have this clear 1, 2, 3 waves up to begin, and this second wave, as you can see, didn't quite go below it. So this is going to be our starting point. And if our starting point has a clear 3 waves, that means it cannot be an impulsive move up. The only impulsive move up that can start with 3 waves is going to be a leading diagonal, which can be a 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 count, or it can be a 5, 3, 5, 3, 5 count. Now, there's a lot of debate about this. Some resources say that leading diagonals have to be 5, 3, 5, 3, 5s, whereas other sources say that leading diagonals can be 5, 3, 5, 3, 5s, or they can be 3, 3, 3, 3, 3s. So the reason I'm making this, leading diagonal is because there's literally no other way for this to be a bullish count unless we have a leading diagonal with a 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 subwave count. So keeping that in mind, we have our ABC, a clear 3 waves there, ABC, a clear 3 waves there. Now this entire movement up is a clear impulse. We have a very strong movement up, very clear impulsive move. So this would be one impulse right there. And then we have our B, and then this is going to be a corrective wave, and then we have our C, which is again another strong impulsive move. Now both of these impulsive moves have extended third waves, which is what we're seeing right here. Now there's some that have labeled this as a 1 being right here, this little 1 up here, and then a wave 2 correction, and then a giant 3, and then a wave 4, and then a giant 5. And the problem with this is that if you label it that way, if you make this entire thing here just one impulsive move, it means that our first wave is like a tenth the size of our third wave, and then our fifth wave again is like 5 times the size of our first wave. And we know that when it comes to impulsive moves and extended waves, when you get an extended wave like this, the other 2 waves that are left tend to equal about the same size. So we're allowed to have a tiny 1, a giant 3, a tiny 4, and then a tiny 5. That's allowed. What isn't something that you'll see is a tiny 1, a giant 3, and then a giant 5. We almost never get double extended waves like I've said before, so that's not something that we want to count on as being an impulsive move. This very clearly looks like a 3-wave move, which means that this first move is impulsive, being an A, a 5-wave impulse with a tiny 1, extended 3, a 4, and then a tiny 5. It looks like it's actually truncated. And then we have a corrective wave as a B, and then we have another impulsive wave, a 1, 2, extended 3, 4, and then a little tiny 5. So this is how we're getting that 3-wave move here, and why I'm not counting it as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have our 3-wave move, our 3-wave move. This is going to be our entire third wave here, another 3-wave move, which means we should have a 1, 2, 3, another ABC here as a 4th wave, which at this point, this is a little bit of an older chart. I posted the chart hours ago. So at this point, we've had that 3-wave move, it looks like, as a 4th wave, and it looks like we're now barely starting to move up with our 5th wave, and the 5th wave is going to be another 3-wave impulse, another 3-wave structure to complete the 5th and then send us down for a wave 2 retracement, which will stop before we lose this bottom here. So the wave 2 is going to be retracement. We're not going to head lower than the 5800 level. We're going to go down, and then we're going to shoot up again for a 3rd wave impulse. Now, this is the bullish scenario. That doesn't mean I find it likely. I do still lean towards this bearish scenario, and I do still believe that after we get our next spike, we're going to plummet down below these last lows. We're going to break them, and we're going to head lower. That being said, I like to present both scenarios. You guys know this is what I believe in, but in case I'm wrong, I don't want you guys scrambling to figure out what's going on, so I propose this alternate scenario that'll explain what could be happening if this primary scenario doesn't play out. So this is the alternate scenario. Now, a very important thing here, we believe that we've completed the 4th wave here because we stopped right above wave 1 territory and we're now heading slightly up. The fact that we didn't cross into wave 1 territory makes it more likely that this scenario is correct, because this particular scenario you cannot cross into wave 1 territory, whereas in this scenario, in a leading diagonal, you're allowed to cross into wave 1 territory. But the fact that we didn't tells us that, hey, maybe this scenario is actually the most likely one, which we already think it is, or I do at least. So it adds confidence to this count. Now, what we're going to be doing here is we're starting to move up a little bit. Right now, when I'm talking, we're at about 64.80 is where we're at right now. So we've bounced off of this bottom right here, completing our wave 4, and it looks like we're starting the impulsive move up. It's going to be a weak one, guys. It's not going to be a strong move up. It could get truncated. All right. In both the bullish and the bearish scenarios here, this one being the bearish, this one being the bullish, as you can see, in both of them, we're heading up. Our next move is up. Our next move is up. Here is that this move is going to have 5 waves. It's going to be a classic impulsive move up, whereas this move is going to be broken up into 3 subwaves with an impulse, a correction, and then a second impulse most likely. So what we're looking for here on this next move up is to see if we can figure out, is it a 5-wave impulse or is it a 3-wave structure made up of 2 impulses and a corrective wave in between? Now keep in mind, once we get to this top, in both counts, again, we're headed down. So it's not going to make a huge difference right here. If we can decipher what type of wave this is, if it's a 3 or if it's a 5, it's going to be helpful. But in the grand scheme of things, at least in the short term, it's not going to make a huge difference, because either way, we're headed down as the next move. But the key here is if we can identify that this is, let's say we find that it's a 3-wave move, okay, instead of a 5-wave impulse. Instead of 1 impulse, we get a 3-wave move. Now we know that more likely than not, we're going to retrace and we're going to bounce. So that tells us to cover our shorts. We'll calculate the targets a little bit later, but it tells us that to cover our shorts before we hit these lows, because most likely we're going to be bouncing back up. In which case, if this is a clear 3, I'll most likely be covering my shorts somewhere down here based off a target that we calculate and flipping long to catch the next wave up. On the other hand, if we see a clear 5-wave impulse and not a 3-wave structure, we can be a lot more confident that the next wave down is going to continue below these 5800 levels, which means most likely I will not be covering any shorts. I'll just be holding on to them and adding on any retracements that we get so that I can ride everything down below 5,800 to our ultimate targets of 5K levels or possibly lower. We'll discuss that a little bit later. But the point here that I'm trying to make is that the next move is going to be, at least what I'm expecting, upwards, at which point we're going to fall down, we're going to break down and drop. And once we drop, we're either going to bounce up to continue higher in the bullish case, which I think is less likely, or we're going to continue down and make new lows. Again, we're looking for the composition of this last wave up to see if we can distinguish between a 5-wave impulse and a 3-wave corrective structure. That'll give us a clue as to whether or not we're seeing the bullish or the bearish scenario. So that was a real quick update for you guys. There seems to be a little bit of confusion about where we are. This should clear everything up. If you guys have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat or send me a message and I'll see if I can answer them. All right, thanks guys.